Maayong adlaw, this is Stephanie Repolio. Welcome to Women's Economic Realities, a podcast series uplifting lived realities and experiences of rural and indigenous peasant women in the discourse of regenerative economic framework. Social and economic inequality falls under the backdrop of colonial oppression and neoliberalism in the Philippines. This is evident in the stories and aspirations, including memories and frustrations, of rural and indigenous peasant women participating in this project. This podcast is a glimpse of their reality.
Ang init, ang pawis, ang luha, dito sa asyenda.
What are the indigenous rituals or habits that you are still practicing?
The essence of village. Life is communal. Everything is communal.
So,
The way they see it should be the health includes in every aspect because it is intertwined with the environment.
lahat yan. Yung sa environment, yung sa health, yung sa ano. So, kasi sa isang...
Because for an
sa
indigenous
isang
community
indigenous
here
community
in
sa
Cordillera,
kasi, ang highest
the highest form of satisfaction is when you achieve communal wellness, not individual.
Hindi individual.
You can satisfy
according to
based
Maslow's
on the hierarchy of needs according to Maslow.
Ito yung first,
Physiological
food,
needs,
diba, na,
water,
basic
food,
needs, tapos
shelter.
ganun. Pero sa kung sa communities, sa village,
But as far as the community is concerned,
highest
actually, it is community wellness.
communal
Because what is it for if you are eating, but someone else or some other family is not eating?
isang family.
Pag may nagkasakit sa amin, pag pinunta namin doon sa ospital, pag 3 beses,
If someone is sick, when we go to the hospital and the doctor says the result is normal,
sinabi yung doktor na normal, yun. Pumunta
we
kami
then
sa
go to the folk healer
alamin
and
namin sa
ask if there is a need to do rituals in our
kailangan
house.
namin mag-rituals sa doon sa namin. Kasi sa amin, pag hindi ko mag-rituals,
Because for us, if somebody gets sick and you don't do rituals, it is a bit dangerous.
pag yun kasi pag may tradisyon ka,
Because if you have a tradition,
yung lalong-lalo na kung
especially with our dying parents,
miss namin yung namatay,
we really always do the rituals.
palaging nagre-rituals, yun.
Yung isa, yung intact pa naman,
One such tradition
doon sa community,
that is still intact is not going to work if someone has died,
trabaho. Lalong-lalo na
especially if it happened near the mining area.
mo, tapos nandito yung
Nobody should work at the mine because it is prohibited to work when somebody has died. The old people say something bad may happen inside the mine.
doon sa loob ng minahan.
Tapos magaganyan.
May sayawan. Sayawan.
Then there is dancing. They call it kanyaw. Especially if you have a relative who is dead, you need to do it so the dead can go to heaven.
Mapunta sa langit. Kasi pag namatay, punta tayo sa pag may namatay.
If for example, the burial is the next day, there will be lawit the day before the burial. If there is extra money for alms, then we do the kanyaw or dancing.
Pera na galing sa mga buhay, ayun magkakanyaw ka.
More than 10, I think. That is why they say the Igorots are big spenders, fond of what or beliefs.
Mahilig sa what-what. Kaya sana parang mag-adjust dun sa ibang...
Hoping for some adjustments will be done in fulfilling some of traditions.
Kung dati,
Before,
talagang kaya
10 hogs were slaughtered,
kaya mong
10 cattles.
ano yun? Magkatay ng 10 baboy, 10 baka. Ganun. Pero syempre, sa kahirapan ng buhay ngayon,
But because life is hard now,
gusto sana i-maintain
as much
pa
as
rin
we
ito,
want to
pero
maintain the practice,
nakaka-
it is already badly affecting the economic aspect of our life.
Sana nasa pang-economic.
Because we will owe a lot of money just to maintain the traditions.
Para gawin lang yung tradisyon na yun.
Ang mga tradisyon
You are obliged to do tradition of us indigenous people,
Maraming yung mga tradisyon na may
to slaughter a sizable number of livestock, even if we cannot afford.
Kahit hindi mo kaya, talagang mauobliga kang gawin.
There is no recourse but to borrow money just to provide that number of livestock to slaughter.
Sana ganun ka-stricto.
Hopefully, it would not be that strictly followed by the children anymore, because they are now Christianized. Maybe just one livestock to slaughter is enough.
Ang tradisyon naman,
Traditions can be changed. They do not have to be permanent.
hindi naman
Meron pa rin. Dito sa karamihan nun, sa interior areas actually, meron pang mga gumagana naman. So from
There are
birth
still
to
practices from birth to death,
conception
or from
to
conception to death.
Meron talagang
There are still rituals
accompanying
accompanying these events.
Tapos, agricultural cycle.
Including the agricultural cycle, there are still rites or rituals followed.
Rites and rituals. Even yung in times of
Even during the time of the pandemic, there are still things followed.
Sinusunod na
Isolation, lockdown of the village.
Tapos lockdown ng village.
So the
hindi
concept of
talaga
lockdown is not an alien
talaga
concept.
pero ito siya
But this situation now is different.
ang nila nga dito,
The pandemic is being weaponized by the government.
pandemic.
Ang lawak, ang yaman ng hari dito sa hasyenda.
How are you taking care of each other?
Yung isang ina
For someone giving birth, she will be well tended. Because for her birthing, there are rituals to welcome the baby.
to welcome the baby. Tapos meron siyang prescribed foods na dapat
Then there is prescribed food to eat according to the beliefs.
Meat
And usually that is meat and chicken. And also vegetables.
vegetables na yung ang nila doon,
Vegetables that can help develop and produce more breast milk
yung gatas niya para
to sustain the mother and the child.
at saka para maka-recover siya. Yan naman ang doon. Oo. Tapos, pag malaki-laki na yung bata, kasi usually ang children sa indigenous communities
It includes the raising of the child because usually the children are everybody's children in the village.
Oo. Kasi naabutan ko pa nung mga bata kami naglalaro kami dyan.
Because I remember as a child, when we played together, we were all the same.
Merong isang matanda na nakakita ng
If there is an adult that saw a crying child or hungry child, they would feed the child regardless of who the child is.
papadede,
Or a baby that wants to be fed,
isang bata,
but the
wala
mother
pa
is
yung
not
nanay,
around.
papadedehin
Another
niya ng
gestating mother will feed the baby.
yung
So that was the way before.
So well taken care of actually ang mga nanganganak sa Cordike. Mahirap ka,
Whether you are rich or poor,
kaya ka sa buhay.
you are well taken care of.
Tapos, ganun. So, pinapas on actually
Then,
yung
the knowledge is passed on to the next generation of parents, but mostly in the indigenous
sa
communities.
indigenous communities. Ang knowledge ng pagdadalaga, at saka
The knowledge of woman coming to puberty and giving birth comes from their group mates at night.
Group mates. Kasi sa gabi kasi maliliit ang bahay kasi noon.
And because the house are small, the house will only be for the couple.
Tapos kung may maliit na anak, so they have to sleep somewhere. So meron talagang yung
The children are to stay in the other people's house.
sa mga bahay ng isang widow.
For growing up girls, they stay in widow's home, where they will be taught about puberty and courtships.
She takes care to teach these girls. Ganun. Kasi may tulugan yung mga
There are sleeping places for the younger ones, and sleeping places for the girls in puberty that can be courted. That is how it works.
Ganun na, ano.
Sa amin po naman ay uso pa po yung bayan.
In our community, the practice of bayanihan is still used. We help when you want to, and they are also willing to help in the farm.
Tumulong sa amin, mga sa mga sakahan.
Helping each other. Because like us from the rural areas, the people have a tradition of helping each other, even if we are not relatives. So the practice of helping each other, including being peaceful with one another. No fighting.
Ang pinakamasama dyan, bisyo. Lalo sa mga babae.
The worst of this would be bad vices, especially with women who engage in gambling. This is a major obstacle. This is my personal observation. We do not have bad vices, but I have observed in our community that they neglect their children. The children grow without proper guidance because they are gambling.
Tapos may
Then, they are also looking for happenings or fun times that are not needed. They even borrow money so they can participate in drinking sessions instead of spending it on the needed things.
halip na sa pansarili na lang na pangailangan.
Ang susi po talaga, yung meron tayong organized na pamayanan.
The key really is an organized community.
Hindi solido.
Because if the community is not solidly united, a lot of hindrances will arise because of mostly personality differences.
Maraming mga
But if the community is organized and the bayanihan system still exists, the concern for each other and helping one another, I believe this will pave the way to an orderly system.
magiging maayos muli ang kaayusan ng ating sistema.
Sa amin, ang kinagawian ay uso pa rin doon sa
For us here, bayanihan is still practiced in our community.
bayanihan. Tapos yung pagtulong.
For example,
sa kalapit
in
ng
times when you
meron
did not
kang
expect an
hindi
emergency,
inaasahan na emergency,
even if you do not
talagang
ask
kung
for
sino
their
sila
help,
tawagin,
they
ay
come to help.
Natulong sila.
We didn't just inherit poverty, but also cooperation.
Tulong-tulong na yan kung sa mga gawain dito sa...
In other aspects of giving, our practice here, for example, a house is constructed, offering a free labor is always expected. Free, no payment, even to manual labor, carrying materials, that is our beautiful customs here. That is what our ancestors left us. That is our wealth. That is what we are abundant with, the practice of cooperation.
Pagod ang ani, ang utang dito sa hacienda.
Sa inyo pong karanasan.
In your experience, what are the other needs of farmers to help in their everyday lives?
Araw-araw na buhay.
Pwede magkaroon na po ng mga kagamitan sa panunubigin.
To have our own equipment for a better farming. To have our own livestock to help us in our livelihood.
Buhay.
Pwede yung aming mga ginagamit sa
Of course, the ones we use in clearing our lands for planting.
at katulad sa pagtatanim. Yun ang aming mahalagang kuwan. Dahil pag wala kaming palakol, yung
If we do not have access, hooks, blades, knives, spades, shovels,
hindi kami
we cannot make a clearing. We cannot plant.
Kuwan ay yung kagamitan ay di yung...
Well, of course, our bolos in our plows.
Kasama yung kuryente. Yung
And of course, the electricity for our thresher.
Kami ng karne.
mga kadamitan.
Equipment.
Pwede katulad
I have these cooking utensils for my livelihood.
paninda. Yung mga halos na may ako
And I have a complete set of basic appliances in the house.
pamamahay.
Katulad na ang pailaw sa mga kalsada, yun yung isa sa...
Having electricity in our place and lampposts to light our roads really help our barangay. And of course, there is a health center, but unfortunately, it has limited medicine supplies. So you cannot really rely on it for emergency situation. Yes, electricity is a big help. You don't have to buy kerosene for your lamps. Of course, you also have to be prudent in your usage because if you are not careful, your electricity bill will be expensive.
May ilaw kami. 2010.
We already have solar-powered lighting in our house. Here in our place, most also use solar lighting. It was in 2014 when electric posts were built. Just no power. We are pointed to different offices regarding our queries. We still must get DENR approval. The DENR will not allow us without approval. Then, we must also get the mayor's approval. So we go back and forth. And then to the barangay captain. We are tired of being instructed to different offices, but no result. We would be really grateful to any of them. We just need our electricity lighting.
Di kami walang ilaw, ay may...
We used solar for our Wi-Fi. This is important for my child. Yes, because my son has 2 children studying at Taguig Primary. It is online learning now. So, we must have Wi-Fi.
Kailangan may Wi-Fi.
Hindi pa okay kumbaga yung aming farm to market katulad noong
Our farm to market roads are not okay. For example, when we did not have floods before 2004, we had a bridge that crossed a river to the field where we work, constructed by the government.
Tinataniman ay may malaking ilog. Noong mayroon siyang hanging bridge na inilagay doon ang gobyerno. Kaya lang nung bumaha.
But when the floods came, it washed out. This made more difficult to bring out our products. When there was a bridge, even when there are floods, we could still get across the mountains. But when it floods now, and the river is high, it is impossible to cross the river.
Tapos yung sa layo ng lugar, pwede naman sana yung
those further away could cross if they have horses. But the problem really is finding a way to cross the river. So, the lack of farm-to-market road is a real problem. For example, for the coconut farmers who want to get their produce out, they have to pay much higher rent for transport. So, little is left for them to profit after they pay the high rent for transport.
Sabi nga nila, yung iba'y karamihan ay nagsilapit na dito sa tabing kalye.
I thought that if we succeed, we will save money towards owning our own land with the goal of forming a cooperative. This is really my dream.
Yun po yung pinapangarap ko sa dyan.
Ang upa, ang amo, ang salot, dito sa hacienda.
What services do you receive from the government that helps alleviate your lives and livelihood?
It seems that our barangay has not provided us very much.
Ang tingin ko lang dito, minsan kasi yung...
In my humble opinion, sometimes, for example, projects come our way, but the budget for the project that reaches us is meager. We just make do with what is available. Sometimes what we need to be done will not materialize. For example, in disaster relief operations, they will not know what the extent of the disaster unless we go and inform them. They should go there and report what happened to us. They say they lack funds. They do not have enough personnel to go to the different communities.
Kaya ang galing ng ginawa nila, nagtalaga silang ng
So they come up with a creative plan. They assign purok leaders who will report to the barangay, and the barangay will report to the municipality.
doon sa munisipyo. Ang kagandahan
The
naman
good
doon,
thing
may
is,
partnership ang
there is a
munisipyo
partnership
sa
from the
munisipyo,
community to
municipality.
LGU
Pero
to the
hindi
municipality.
naman lahat ay
But not all have
ng
access to communication.
halimbawa yung net,
For
ng
example, the internet.
mga communication din, kasi communication din naman yun. Ganun. Pero, at least,
But at least in Itugon, like in the disaster response, they have sounded the alarm because disaster here are extensive.
Disaster na dito.
Na bulldoze na yung papunta doon.
The supposed to be road to our place was only bulldozed for one day, and it stopped.
300,000 daw na
The 300,000 pesos fund may be already gone. The road is not even one half finished.
sa kalahatian. Abay, ang dapat tayo
Well,
maging ang kapitan
it is our barangay captain should be sensitive to the needs of his constituents, not just a lip service.
May transparency sa
I hope
allocation.
there is transparency
Minsan
in
wala
allocation.
consultation.
Sometimes there is no consultation that happens, especially at the barangay level.
Kung sino lang yung malapit
The tendency
sa tulong,
here
siya lang
is
nabibigyan.
that those who are
Minsan
closer
walang
to the
gamit.
leader will have the
Wala naman
greater
siyang
share
paggagamitan
of
nun.
whatever is to be distributed.
Dapat
Sometimes
doon,
the
kailangan-
recipient has no
kung sino
need
yung
for the
mas
equipment.
nangangailangan bigyan.
Who needs the equipment most should be the one to
Yun lang
receive it.
napapansin ko. Ang dami
I
na
noticed that
binababa
there
dito.
are many equipment given to the wrong
Nasa maling
person.
tao.
Hindi daw po pantay-pantay.
The accessibility of government services is not equal.
Kasi sa karanasan po nila mother, imbis na
Instead of focusing on them, what the government did was to be selective about who to help. So, accessibility is not equal,
na dapat sana.
which should not be the case.
Aba, sa akin? Wala, ano lang.
For me, those seeds and fertilizers,
Pataba.
I think that is the only thing I got from our barangay.
Kuha ko sa barangay na ano. Wala, karamihan.
Most
ay
people
nagpapaano
refill
sa-
water from the refilling station.
nagpaparefill ng tubig.
We cannot drink the tap water because it is dirty.
Dahil
How much do we spend
ang
on water
tubig
to
namin
refill?
parang marumi.
It is 30 pesos.
Magkano ang gastos namin sa
30
tubig?
pesos for one container. We have to spend and spend. Our expenses for water is probably 600 pesos.
Namin siguro nasa 600.
May nakuha daw po
According to them, they got 20,000 for livelihood. This is helpful as a capital for a small business for their everyday living.
Dapat nga po ay magbigay ang gobyerno ng
The government should give a source of income other than rice production, wherein people in communities can acquire training for other sources of livelihood and income.
mga nasa komunidad. Sa aming community ay marami
What is available in our community are creditors.
kababaihan doon.
That is why our women are saying what they need are means of livelihood to earn a living, not loans.
Kababaihan sa amin.
When the money is released from the loans, they say women are in good mood, but when payment time comes, they hide from the creditors. Of course, there is no means of livelihood, there is no money to pay.
Siguro ang kailangan ihinto.
Maybe what should be stopped is favoritism.
Talaga pong nangyayari.
Favoritism was rampant during the pandemic, where the guidelines in the distribution of aid were not followed.
Criteria, yun yung susundin.
That the services rendered by the barangay should be equally accessible and fair. Everybody is co-equal. No favoritism or discrimination. For example, a leader who gives preference to someone close to them or a relative, even if they are not deserving or did not meet the criteria for the aid.
Kailan kahit ano.
No matter the efforts to minimize electricity usage, it is still expensive, right? Too expensive. Maybe because of the cost of the fuel. Maybe if there will be a rollback of a fuel prices, it would be cheaper. It is very important because like our lives before, we live far from the farm to market roads. Just imagine the efforts and expenses in transporting the rice to our house. Expensive. Nothing will be left for us. The farmer really spends a lot on rice production. It is important to have a health center. You don't have to go to the hospital right away, but rather go to the health center.
Pero siguro talagang kailangan namin yung tubig. Tubig na malinis. Tapos yung bagamat magbabalik school na, so kailangan pa rin yung internet. Ayan ang isang kailangan dito, yung university.
One of the things we need here is a university right here in Real. That is what we don't have. The colleges are in Infanta. There are 2 schools there, SLSU and NQCI.
Saka ang NQCI.
Siguro yung yung pag
I believe research is needed so you will really know what is not available in your community.
sa isang sa isang
As a leader, you can see what is really needed by your constituents.
kung ano ang kailangan
And of course, the leaders, the things they have worked on should not only be simple dole-outs.
yung pagsasaliksik.
They need to research and really know how they can help or do for those that are at the bottom of their constituencies.
Nasa ibaba na kanilang nasasakupan.